Hi, my name is Lexi and welcome back to my channel, and today I am going to talk about modified fasting, which is adding in a 500-ish calorie meal onto your fasting or down day. Now, a lot of people get upset about the idea of calling it modified fasting. They say if you're eating, you're not fasting, which is true. When you eat, you stop fasting. However, you're still fasting on either end of that little meal, and it really is a short interruption. So the idea behind this is that you're having one day where you're eating very little, and the next day you're eating a lot or a normal amount, So you're kind of keeping your metabolism guessing, and that's why it still works. For some people, it works better than doing just a full fast. So a lot of people will do the modified fasting or the up and down day approach all the time. For me, I generally prefer not to have any calories on my fasting days and just to keep them as a full fast, and I only drink water and have salt and things like that, but no food on my down days. So out of the almost 18 months that I've been fasting, I have probably modified my fast or done a small meal, I don't know, maybe 10 times or even less, like between 5 and 10 times. So that's the only times that I've actually done a modified fast day. Some of the benefits that people find with doing the 500 calorie meal, and again, the 500 calories is sort of a guideline. It's supposed to be about 25% of your normal calorie intake, which really varies per person. So for me, I don't count calories. But if I did, I honestly probably average around 3,000 calories on my eating days. So if you took 25% of that, that would be about 750 calories or less. It doesn't have to be that amount. It's just kind of a ballpark figure. And basically, like I said, it's to keep your body guessing. And some people find that using this option helps them to sleep on the day of their fast, because sometimes when you get into that deep ketosis, when you're on your full fasting day, it can be hard to sleep because you have this energy running through you. So a lot of people find that doing this small meal helps them to be able to sleep. So I don't really have issues with sleeping typically, and a lot of times the sleep issues are temporary with alternate day fasting. So you may find it in the beginning and then it'll kind of level off. So keep that in mind. But also, it just can help people to go a little bit longer. Like if you have the meal, say at dinner time around 24 hours, and then you go another 16 to 18 hours, whereas before you could have only gone an additional 12, let's just say. So it may help people go a little longer. So altogether, you're fasting a little longer. Some people find that it actually helps them to lose weight better. And I think the reason is because it's not that it actually works better, or neither is more superior. That's kind of the point I want to get across here. It's just what works for you. And I think that the reason it works better for some people is that it just helps them to be able to do it long term, and it makes it sustainable for them, whereas maybe a full day fast just is too difficult for some people. But then there's people like me where full day fasting generally works better. But I do love having that option in my back pocket. I've done a few videos on women and hormones and fasting, and how, especially Dr. Mindy, she recommends pulling away from fasting on that week before your period starts. So days 21 through 28 of your cycle. So she recommends, only doing intermittent fasting that week. And if you're doing the keto diet, to pull out of the keto diet, to eat carbs, to eat certain carbs, not just junk food, but good carbs for raising progesterone, because that helps your body make progesterone. So I've done some experimentation with this. I did some videos in the past where I did do the modified fasting that week before my period. And I concluded that it didn't really do me a whole lot of good. But it's something that I'm now aware of, and especially that week before my cycle starts, I try to be really mindful of what I'm feeling. The reason though that I haven't fully adopted that the week before my cycle is because I have found a lot of actual benefits from full day fasting in regards to my cycle. So before I started fasting, one thing that would happen to me before I start my period is I would actually get sick often the week before, a couple days before my cycle would start. I've never heard of anyone else, this happening to anyone else, so I have no idea why, but like it happened frequently enough to notice that this was a definite pattern. So I would get, like a sore throat and just feel really fatigued and tired, and often it would turn into a full cold. So I was getting colds once a month. Sometimes they would only last a day or two. Sometimes they would move into a full cold for like a week or even 2 weeks. So I was getting colds pretty frequently. Since I started fasting, I have had one cold. And that was after I had traveled for 5 days. I had 5 eat days in a row. My family was sick. I had just finished a round of antibiotics for my kidney stone procedure. So my immune system from all those factors was low. But other than that, I haven't had a cold since I started, and it has been seriously probably one of the top benefits of alternate day fasting that I have found for me. So again, this is my own experience, but yeah, so I don't want to let go of those benefits, and I feel like the full day fast for my immune system actually is very beneficial. So I try to keep those things in mind and balance out my needs and decide what's the most important thing at the time. So that being said, my last cycle, these are some situations that happened. So first off, this was day 22 of my cycle. This was a Wednesday, which was a fast day. I started to get hungry. I do notice that I am more hungry that week before my cycle. It was about 10 o'clock. I thought about where I was in my cycle, just became aware of that. And I thought about modifying my fast. And I weighed the pros and cons, like I talked about with the immunity and all of that. But I was starting to get a sore throat. I could feel it coming on, and I thought, you know what? I think fasting is going to be the best thing for me. So I kept my fast going around 1 p.m. The feeling returned, and I went and vacuumed out my van, which was very much needed. And after I did that, it passed and I was fine. Then the next fast day was Friday. This is day 24 of my cycle. The same kind of thing happened. Started feeling hungry, was thinking about where I was at in my cycle. Around 1 p.m., I thought again about doing a modified fast. Then I went and cleaned my bathroom, and I felt fine. Around 5 o'clock, I felt fine, but the kids were eating dinner. I had made fajitas. They looked really good. They smelled really good. So I asked myself, is it worth it? Is it worth breaking my fast? Will I be glad that I did? And the answer on this particular day was no. I would not be glad that I did. And so I didn't. I did not eat, and I kept going. And at this point, I just want to point out, I was feeling fine. Like, there was no reason other than the fact that the food looked really good. So again, I just weighed out the pros and cons, decided to keep going with my fast. So that was that day. Okay, now fast forward to Monday. Now I'm day 27 of my cycle, about ready to start my cycle. I typically start my cycle between days 26 and 28. So I was a little more hungry than usual. I was doing okay. I made it to almost 24 hours, and then I was in the kitchen, and I just felt off all of a sudden. And before I knew it, I was like, okay, I'm gonna eat some nuts. And so I had about 500 calories worth of nuts, and I actually felt like it wasn't enough. And so I went ahead and had some meatballs and rice. I didn't count the calories, but I'm guessing I was probably around 1,000. So this would be more like an OMAD versus a modified fast. I felt fine. Felt fine after that. Felt great. Didn't have any temptation to continue eating. And the one thing that I have decided for myself is that if I ever choose to modify my fast, the rule for me is that I'm going to eat once and I am going to not eat any treats. So it's going to just be about nourishment and providing for my body in that moment. And that is good for two reasons. One, because it helps me to not feel guilty or like I did something that was counterproductive for me. And also that I, interfere with my fast as little as possible and still can gain benefits on either side of that fast. And that I don't feel like I need to punish myself, which I don't think you should ever feel like you need to punish yourself. I think if anything like this ever happens, just go on with your plans, make the next day an eating day as you had planned originally and go from there. Don't be like, oh, I need to fast tomorrow or I need to do, and you could say tomorrow could be an OMAD day instead of a full eating day. But for me, I choose not to do that. So that's what I do in that situation. And it was fine. But then here was another situation that happened. This was just yesterday, which was a Friday. And I just really wanted these refried beans that I'd been making all day. And I did start to feel a little off around 1 o'clock, which was at 19 hours fasted, right? Or maybe it was 11 o'clock. I don't know, but it was about 19 hours fasted where I started to feel a little off, started thinking about modifying my fast. And I actually started to feel fine, but at that point I had gotten the idea into my head that I wanted to modify my fast, and I just decided to go ahead and do it. So I went ahead and I had a little bowl of the refried beans. I had a tiny little sliver of a quesadilla, which I try not to do like refined carbs if I'm doing a modified fast, but I just had a little bit, so it was fine. And then I did have another like third of a bowl after that, and again felt totally satisfied. Some people, so with like the fasting app, you could just keep your fast going. It's totally up to you. I like to stop it, so I stopped mine at about 24 hours when I ate the beans. I ate them within about like 15 minutes, and then I restarted my app for 16 hours. So I went total fasting for the whole cycle was about 40 hours once I broke it this morning. Typically for me, I fast around 38 to 39 hours. So it was a little bit longer than I normally would have gone. And it was fine. So the point being is that sometimes your body might need you to modify the fast. It might just benefit you physically. Sometimes it's just something you want mentally. I don't do that very often. It's very rare. But if that is what works for you to do the modified fast, like do not feel like you're failing. Don't feel like it's worse than the other option. It's just a matter of what works better for you. And modified fasting is certainly better than no fasting at all. And it also it's fine. It's great. It's just another way of doing it, and there are no bad ways. There's just different ways. So I want you to know that you have this option and that you can do it all the time, or you can do it when you need it or want it, and it's there for you. I would recommend to be very deliberate and intentional with those meals and to make them about nourishing your body, not about pleasure, which of course it can be a pleasurable experience, but that's not the main purpose. Also, I would love to hear from you what your experiences are with modified fasting or the up-down day approach. I know a lot of people really love it. So, go ahead and share what your favorite meals are for this type of a day, what your strategy is, when you typically like to break your fast, as far as like when you would eat your meal and then how long you'd fast afterwards. I would love to hear from you, and I'm sure others would as well. So I hope that helps you. Just wanted to throw that out there because I had those experiences and I wanted to share. So next week will be my weight update. I will do my month's worth of weigh-ins for you, and I will talk to you guys next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.